What if the future isn't built by progress, but by grief? When we unlock alien ruins, do we find salvation or reflections of our own ruin? This is not a war of ships or weapons, but of scars, guilt, and the will to survive. And the deeper you go, the more you lose yourself. This is the part 1 of Operation Starfall.
Captain Ava Reyes stood at the helm of the USS Valkyr, her hands resting on the cold steel of the command rail. She was in her late 30s. With dark, sharp eyes and hair cut close to the scalp, a practical woman hardened by 20 years of war. The starlight flickered across her bronze skin as her gaze locked onto the monstrous silhouette drifting before them in the void. The Seacraft warship, massive, silent and battle-scarred, floated like a wounded predator, half buried in the shadows of Thetan IX's nebular debris. No life signs, no power signature. Not even a distress signal. Still reading. Dead silence, said Commander Tarek Solon, his voice tense. He was older, grizzled, and loyal to the end, a soldier who had lost as much as Ava but spoke of it far less. Ava narrowed her eyes. Nothing's dead until you check the heart. The Valkyr's scanners had only just caught the drifting vessel hours earlier. It was an anomaly, a Seacraft prototype class, rumored to exist but never confirmed. They weren't supposed to be this deep in Terran space. A sudden static crackled. Over comms the bridge fell quiet. This is Captain Ava Reyes of the USS Valkyr. We are operating under Black Protocol. No rescue, no return. We found something. 4 figures stepped through the outer airlock of the derelict ship. Guided only by the dull glow of helmet lights, the alien vessel's walls shimmered with an organic, semi-metallic substance like veins under translucent flesh. Faint pulses of green light flickered through the corridors. The team was Dr. Sienna Cross, Valkyr's top Xenotech specialist at 31. Sienna was brilliant, introverted, and emotionally guarded, her mixed heritage, half human, half Seacraft, was a secret buried deep in military files, unknown to all but command. She adjusted her neural scanner as they pressed deeper inside the alien ship. This ship, it's healing, she murmured. No such thing as a ship healing itself, one Marine muttered. Apparently this one disagrees, she replied quietly, running her hand along the wall. The deeper they moved, the more unnatural it felt. They entered a central chamber, cavernous and pulsing faintly with warmth. At its core stood a crystalline spire. Suspended in zero gravity, strange symbols danced across its surface like living ink. Sienna's eyes widened. That's not an engine, she whispered. It's a memory archive. Then a sharp clang echoed from above. Movement, shouted one of the Marines. Aiming his weapon upward out of the darkness staggered a figure. Armor charred and soaked in black ichor, he moved with pain but with the dignity of a Commodore Jory. Tall, a high-ranking Seacraft warlord, he stood nearly 7 feet tall, his body encased in cracked organic armor that pulsed faintly with dying light. One eye glowed silver. The other was sealed shut by a ragged scar. You trespass on holy ground, he rasped and accented. Terran the Marine raised his rifle, but Sienna stepped forward. Wait, don't shoot, he's not attacking yet, growled another captain. Ava's voice crackled through the comms. Restrain him alive, we need answers. Jory, tall, sat in a containment field aboard the Valkyr. His claws dulled and bound. His armor had been removed, revealing a surprisingly lean form, covered in bioluminescent scars and tribal brands. He did not cower. He did not beg. He simply waited. Ava stood before him, arms crossed. Why was a commander? Like you, alone on a prototype warship? Tal sneered. Alone? No, I had warriors, brothers you humans saw to their end. This ship was meant to destroy Earth, Ava said flatly. Why didn't it? Tal tilted his head. Because someone aboard didn't believe in genocide. Ava's gaze narrowed. Saboteur? The alien offered no reply. Later that night, Sienna sat alone in her lab, her face lit by alien glyphs glowing across multiple holographic panels. Sweat clung to her brow as her fingers danced across the interface. One panel flickered. A voice spoke in Seacraft, deep, almost parental. Daughter, the time has come. Send the signal. Her breath caught in her throat. She stared at the command prompt. One simple tap would awaken the ship's planetary weapon. No, she whispered, they'll die. Everyone, including me. You were born for sacrifice, as were we all. Footsteps echoed behind her. She slammed the panel shut. Marcus Chen stood in the doorway, the younger brother of the late Elias Chen. Marcus was brash, hot-tempered, and painfully intelligent. His grief had hardened into suspicion, a cold lens through which he viewed everyone. Especially Ava. "You all right, Doc?" he asked. Squinting Sienna offered a tight smile. "Just ghosts in the code, Chapter 5. Wake up callback on the bridge." Alarms began to scream. "The alien ship, it's powering up!" shouted Tarakava, rushed in. "Who triggered it?" "No one on board, it's autonomous, it's—" Waking below decks. Sienna's hands trembled as the console glowed red. The alien symbols formed a countdown. A planetary weapon was activating, and she was the only one who knew. "I wanted to help them," she thought. "I swear. I did, but the war never ended, it just changed shape." The alien ship, the one that should have remained lifeless, now hummed with a strange rhythm. A heartbeat made of static and light dim emerald pulses ran like blood through the seams of its hull, casting flickering shadows across the adjoining corridors of the Terran vessel in the science deck. Dr. Sienna Cross stood frozen, her neural scanner lay idle in her hands. Forgotten all her training, all her control, unraveled as the alien archive activated itself without human touch. Glyphs danced on the console ancient. Fluid, alive, the language of the Sicraft. No one else aboard Valkyr could read them, but she could, and what they spelled out was a name she had buried with her guilty lias. Chenshi leaned forward, her heart hammering. A memory shard, that's what the archive was trying to show her. Not blueprints, not coordinates, but a preserved echo of a life. Sienna accessed the fragment, and the room dimmed. The air turned heavy with static, a shimmer of green. Light pooled in the center of the lab and coalesced into a ghost. A man tall, broad-shouldered, kind Isilias. Her throat tightened. "If you're seeing this," his echo said, "then you found the Sicraft S Arc class prototype. We tried to destroy it. We failed. Tell Ava. I'm sorry I didn't make it back, but I saw what it could do. I saw the end." The memory faded. Sienna stumbled back. Hand pressed to her mouth. The past, long buried under duty and silence, had returned in spectral clarity. Elias had died here on this ship, and she was walking the same path now. Marcus June had never been a man of stillness. He lived in forward motion, running toward answers, toward danger, toward the truth no one wanted him to have now. He stood in front of Ava Reyes's private quarters, his jaw clenched. He pressed the chime. The door slid open, and Ava looked up from her desk. Her expression was unreadable. "As always, stoic, controlled, Marcus," she said calmly. "It's late. I saw the logs, the location. Theta-9, this is where he died, isn't it?" She hesitated. "Yes," she said softly. "You lied." He spat. "You told me Elias died evacuating civilians." Ava stood. "I told you what I believed at the time." "No," Marcus said, voice rising. "You told me what would keep me in line." Pause fell like a dropped hammer between them. "I had to keep this crew together," she said. "He was my second in command, my friend. If people knew the truth, that he died aboard a prototype warship with no survivors, we would have torn ourselves apart chasing shadows." Marcus stepped closer, eyes burning. "He wasn't just your friend, he was my brother." Ava didn't flinch. "He was more than that to me too," she said, "but I'm still your captain, don't forget that." The Valkyr systems began to fail in waves minor. At first flickering lights, glitching comes, then navigation drifted by 0002 degrees. Then 05 engines responded sluggishly, internal doors opened and closed at random. Some stayed sealed. The alien ship was bleeding into theirs, merging. Adapting its systems were latching onto the Valkyr like vines around stone in the medbay. A junior technician collapsed screaming, eyes wide, claiming to see a creature crawling through the walls. It wasn't real, except he'd never seen a seacraft before, yet he described them perfectly. Ava gathered her senior staff in the war room. "This ship's not just powering up," she said. "It's probing us, studying us." Tarek, arms crossed, added grimly, "or preparing to absorb us." Sienna sat silent, her gaze on the floor. She knew what it was doing. It was waking, and it was not alone. The transmission came at 300 hours encrypted, buried in the Valkyr's secondary systems. It was picked up by the AI watchdog, but miscategorized as background telemetry. Sienna found it first. Her heart dropped as she parsed the alien glyphs. This wasn't just a data stream, it was a location ping and a voice prototype ARC class responding preparing interface. Host vessel identified beginning neural. Integration infiltrators detected infiltrators. It was referring to them, the crew. The ship had classified them as a threat before she could shut it down. Another voice cut through. Daughter, her breath caught. It was not a message, it was a direct call. You are within the heart of the seed. You must finish what was started. Activate the core purge. The vessel. Let the new war begin. Sienna didn't sleep that night. She sat in the archive chamber, surrounded by glyphs, haunted by Ilias's voice. Then came footsteps. Marcus. He looked tired, his features drawn and shadowed by suspicion. I know you've been hiding something, he said. Every time something happens with that ship, you're there first. She didn't answer. You knew Elias, didn't you? He asked quietly. Her silence was answer enough. I don't know what you are, he said, stepping back, but I'm going to find out, and if you're working with them, I'm not, she snapped, eyes flashing. I'm trying to stop this. He stared at her, uncertain. Then prove it. She looked down at the console. Give me time. But time was the one thing none of them had far below the hull. The alien warship's core began to hum. The countdown had already begun. The air on the Valkyr grew colder, not by degrees, but by presence. Doors that once hissed open now remained sealed for hours, then opened suddenly with no prompt. Entire decks would black out, only to flood with blinding light moments later. Crew members reported voices whispering in corridors, always just behind them, always just out of reach. Captain Ava Reyes watched all this with a soldier's suspicion. She had seen systems go haywire, but this wasn't mechanical, it was psychological, and it was spreading. 3 officers had turned violent in the last 48 hours. The latest had tried to override the reactor failsafe, saying he heard the core screaming to be freed. He was sedated and locked down in the medbay. Ava stood above him, his wrists restrained to the cot. His eyes twitched even in sleep. What's happening to my crew? She asked quietly. Dr. Sienna Cross answered without looking up. The core is broadcasting a psychic field. It's testing neural vulnerabilities. It's not killing us. Ava's eyes narrowed. It's converting us. Tarek Solin walked with a limp. Now residual damage from shrapnel years ago on Mars, but nothing slowed his stride. When he was angry, he stormed into the security bay, where Lieutenant Marcus Chen stood reviewing crew logs. You questioned Sienna's access? Tarek growled. Marcus looked up. Coolly, I questioned a potential security breach. She's not the enemy. You sure? Because she's hiding something and people are hearing voices, seeing things, trying to open airlocks. We're bleeding control, and all she does is stare into alien symbols like they're prayers. She's decoding it, Tarek said, trying to stop whatever's coming. Marcus stood, face hard. You still trust her? After all this? I trust Ava's judgment, Tarek said, even when I don't trust yours. For a moment, silence pulsed between them like a heartbeat. Then the comms lit up with a shriek of static. Engineering deck breach, containment failure level 4. Tarek turned. Marcus was already running. Flames poured from the lower corridors, sickly green, licking up through twisted bulkheads. Emergency suppression systems had already failed. Sparks rained down like dying stars. The alien warship had infected Valkyr's core systems. This wasn't sabotage, it was rebirth. Ava barked orders through the smoke, dragging a burned crewman out of the collapse. Tarek and Marcus arrived just as part of the corridor caved in, steel groaning like a dying animal. Sienna, Ava shouted into her come. Tell me you can shut this down. No answer. Instead, a second transmission broke through. The same cold, deliberate voice from the archive. The seed must burn the host to grow. Ava's eyes darkened. Screw that. She turned to Tarek. Evacuate all non-essential personnel to the top decks. I'm taking a team back to the alien core. This ends now. The deeper Ava's strike team descended into the alien warship's annex. The less human the walls became, they no longer resembled corridors. They resembled arteries. Each step deeper was like walking inside a living beast. Ava led the way, pulse rifle ready. Marcus followed, eyes scanning. Sienna brought up the rear, carrying a device of her own design, a neural disruptor tuned to the Sekraf's psychic frequency. They reached the memory core. It now stood fully awake and taller, brighter, and pulsing with an unbearable hum that seemed to bypass the ears and scream directly into the skull. This is where they were created. Sienna whispered. The Ark-class ships, they weren't just machines. Marcus stared. They were born here. Sienna nodded, each one seeded from the minds of a Seacraft elder, a living conscience built into steel and bone. The floor quaked, the crystalline spire in the center of the room flared. The war never ended, the voice boomed. From the core you buried it in treaties, we buried it in stars. Suddenly, a blast threw them back from the center of the core. Something stepped forward. It was Jory Talbot. He was no longer Bounden, he was no longer Woundedgery. Tal stood encased in new armor grown from the walls themselves. His one remaining eye now glowed like a dying sun. The room vibrated around him. You could have let me die, he said to Ava, but you saved me, and so you will witness what comes next. You're using us, Ava growled. You let your ship take my crew. I didn't let it. Tal said I begged it not to, for a flicker of a second. Sorrow passed across his alien face. It is not a warship. He said, it is a tomb that believes it's still fighting. Sienna stepped forward, holding the disruptor then. Help us shut it down. Tal hesitated. It will kill you, he said. Maybe, Ava said, but if we don't try, it'll kill millions more. Tal's claws clenched, then he stepped aside. You have one chance. Sienna approached the spire, every glyph lit up at once. Authorization, Seacraft hybrid detected. Accessing lineage code, disruptor. Compromised memory core override denied. No, Sienna whispered. Then the final glyph appeared. Initiating burn protocol. Ava's coms went dead across the ship. Lights flickered to black and the warship began to melt down.
Visit our channel for Part 2 of Operation Starfall.